Welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast, Episode 15. In today's podcast, Jenn Swanson offers a number of valuable tips for anyone looking for help being more professional at work, and also shamelessly plugs her new ebook. More professional, right, hang on. In today's podcast, Jenn Swanson offers a number of valuable tips for anyone looking for help being more professional at work, and also informs you how you can find even more valuable information in her very reasonably priced ebook entitled How to Be Professional in the Workplace. That was better, hey? I know, right?
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Communication Diva. This is Jenn Swanson, and I'm really glad that you are here listening to this today, wherever you happen to be. If you're in your car, or you're at the gym, or you're sitting at home, I really appreciate you taking the time to tune in. And this podcast's aim is to talk about communication skills in the hopes that you will find some value here, and that something you hear will help you to improve your own communication skills and in turn improve the relationships that you have in your life. So this is episode 15 already. I can't believe I've been doing this now for 15 weeks in a row. Every Monday morning out comes a new episode, and it's pretty exciting. I am thrilled that I am going to be attending Blog World Expo 2012 in New York City in June. And there I will be meeting a number of amazing podcasters from all across North America, as well as from the UK and Denmark and all over the place. And so I'm looking forward to putting some faces to names and to actually meet some of the people in my podcast mastermind group in person instead of just on Skype. So that's pretty exciting. This episode can be heard on iTunes, BlackBerry, Zune, and on Stitcher Smart Radio. And if you don't have the Stitcher Smart Radio app, it's absolutely free, and it is something that you can download for your iPod, your iPad, your Android, anything you can carry around with you. And if you go to www.communicationdiva.com, you will see a big button on the right-hand side that is Stitcher Smart Radio, and you can click on that. It's absolutely free, and it will download to your device. And you can design your own podcast stations that way. So you can pick and choose from thousands of different podcasts. And every time a podcast is produced, every time a new episode is produced of the podcast that you choose, it will pop up on your device. So check that out. It's a pretty cool thing. I've got it. I've got a lot of podcasts I'm behind on listening to right now. Today, I wanted to talk to you about how to be professional in the workplace. And part of the reason I want to talk to you about that is that I have a brand new published ebook that has come out on Kindle and through Smashwords. And if you go to Smashwords, the link will be on the show notes for Communication Diva. You can download it into numerous different formats. So you don't have to have a reader device in order to read this book. It's a short book, and it is a practical, hands-on book with tips that you can apply right away. And I'm going to have the link to that on the website. And there's also a tab at the top that says My Books, and you can find it there. And it talks all about improving your workplace professionalism. One of the things that I listened to recently was from our Canadian Broadcasting Corporation here, a radio station that aired an episode on a show called The Current, and they were talking about this subject of workplaces having to train their employees in workplace professionalism, because particularly people in Generation Y and later have not received any training either at home or in the schools, I guess, and are having a really hard time knowing what professional behavior is. And I have noticed that in my classroom. One of the classes that I teach is human relations skills. to a group of young people getting ready to go out into the workforce in the hospitals and sometimes in doctors' offices. And there are a lot of people that have never heard of some of the things that we cover and some of the topics that we talk about. And so there's something missing there. Another thing I noticed is that every single day I am getting search engine searches on communicationdiva.com looking for articles that I have written and topics I have covered that have to do with things like dress code and professional tone of voice and how to improve your workplace professionalism. And so I decided that people seem to be looking for this and people seem to be wanting information on this. And that's why I decided to write the ebook, to put something out there that people can get for $1.99, very reasonable price, and hopefully something that will be of great value, much greater value than $1.99, that will help people to right away put some things into place that will improve how they are perceived. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the topics from the book today, and talk about ideas and ways in which you can improve your workplace professionalism. So some of these you probably already know, and some of them maybe you know and you just haven't thought about for a while, and some of them might be brand new to you. I'm just going to move my little note thing up here. I wanted to talk first of all about what being professional is. What does it mean to be professional? And I think it speaks to the manner in which you do things, more so than what qualifications you have or what letters you have behind your name. I think it's the way in which you conduct yourself at work or in anything that you do, really. I talk a little bit in the book about, professional photographers or professional athletes. Sometimes it means people who have expertise in their field. Sometimes it means people who are paid to do things, as opposed to people who are amateur and maybe don't get paid. But what I'm talking about in this book is that everyone, I think, can behave in a professional manner, and regardless of what it is you do. And I think it's more about how you carry yourself and how you present yourself to others. Things like how you manage your time, the words that you use when you speak, as well as practical things like what you wear and what your tone of voice is like when you answer the phone, the words that you use, the language that you use. All of those things contribute to a sense of professionalism. And I don't think this is hard stuff. I think there are some very easy things that can be done to help improve how people see you and to think of you perhaps as a professional with whatever it is you're doing. Doesn't matter what kind of job you're doing. I have a list here of 11 attributes of professional people. And so I'm just going to read this little list off for you. These are 11 things that I think people who I see as being professional in how they do their job hold. So the first one is a positive attitude. If you're completely cranky all of the time, it's not very pleasant to be around, and I don't think that that's a very professional attitude. So a positive attitude would be the first attribute, I think. The second one would be, why are you there in the first place? So a good idea as to why you are there in the first place. Are you there just because it's a job? Are you there for the client or the customer or the patient that you're serving? Are you there because of the money? Are you there because you're fascinated and passionate about what it is you do? Or are you there because life sucks and this is the only job you can get? So I think knowing the answer to this question is really an important thing and an important part of working on or improving your professionalism. Because if you absolutely hate what you're doing, maybe you need to rethink it. Why are you doing it then if you can't stand it? So that's just something to think about. And if you've got a negative attitude and you're doing something that you don't like to do, then it's going to show and you're not going to be very professional, I don't think. The third thing on my list of 11 things is expertise in your area. What do you know about what it is that you do? How long have you been doing it? What skills and attributes do you bring to the job that you're doing? Professionals are experts in their fields. And again, it doesn't matter what it is that you do, rather than how it is that you do it, and what you know and how you share that knowledge. So I have a friend who didn't go past grade 7, and he didn't graduate. Obviously, he didn't even go to high school. And this guy is an absolute expert in his field. He builds and maintains swimming pools and hot tubs, and works with tile, and does fantastic work. He can look at the ground and do some measurements and figure out how much it's going to cost you to put in a pool. All that kind of stuff. He has years and years and years of expertise, and he does his job in a very professional manner. And again, he's an expert in his field, and it doesn't seem to matter that he doesn't have any letters behind his name. So I think, are you an expert in something that you are doing? That is an attribute of a professional person. What about work ethic? That's the next one, a good work ethic. And we could talk for a long time on work ethic. But I think it means all sorts of things. But in general, I think it means the way in which you approach your job. So are you working hard? Are you trying to learn things all the time? What's your punctuality like? Do you get there on time? Do you stay till the end of the day? Do you take breaks at appropriate times? If you're going to be sick or late or absent, are you calling in to let somebody know? Are you trying to be helpful to other people around you? Are you honest and accountable and reliable? Do you take pride in your work, and do you do the best thing that you can possibly do in that job? Those all are part of work ethic, and that is a good work ethic is part of being a professional. I mentioned a little bit about accountability there. That's the next thing. So accountability would be one of the 11 things, and accountability is being accountable for your actions. So if you make a mistake, being able to say, "Yup, I did that, I screwed up, I'm sorry, how can I fix it?" would be a professional move, rather than maybe saying, "it wasn't me, somebody else did it," etc., etc. So being accountable for your actions and being able to admit that you make mistakes and then move forward would be a sign of professionalism. One of the 11 things that I think is really important is an awareness of your limitations. Everybody's good at things, and everybody has things that they are working on or could improve. And there are some things that are just really challenging for people. So if there is something that you know that you can't do or that you can't do well, it's good to be able to name that and say that, rather than breezing through and saying, "Yep, I can do everything." I find it really annoying during interviews when you're asking people questions like, what are your abilities and what are your weaknesses? It's a pretty rotten question anyway, but it seems to be a standard question. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And and I've seen people say, "Oh, I'm too organized," and that's a weakness. And it drives me crazy, because it's I don't think it's really very honest. They are couching a positive attribute in such a way that you could call it a weakness. And most people who are doing interviews can see right through that. Anyway, people do have limitations, and knowing what your limitations are, it's a helpful thing. If there's something that someone asks me to do and I know that I don't know anything about it, it's more honest and it's less of a waste of everybody's time if I say, "You know what, I don't know how to do that. I'd be happy to learn, but I'm telling you straight up that I've never done this before. If someone can coach me on it, I can maybe try it, but I just want you to know that I've never done it before." That would be way more professional than than to say, oh yeah, I can do it, and then, be struggling to figure it out. So that's one of the things. Another part of professionalism is having good communication skills. And not even just good communication skills, but excellent communication skills. And again, I see that a lot in resumes, that people say they have excellent communication skills, and then the minute they open their mouths or start answering the questions, that maybe that's a little bit of an overstatement. So working on communication skills, and everybody, even people who have degrees in these areas, can work and improve and do better. Because I don't think, again, I think I've said this somewhere else, I don't think it's something that you master. I think communication skills are an ongoing practice. So working on that and improving on your communication skills is an attribute of a professional person. Humility is another one. Somewhat goes along with knowing your limits, but being humble. Just having a little bit of humility. Nobody likes someone who toots their own horn or brags incessantly about how brilliant they are. A professional person doesn't need to tell anyone that they are professional. It's more about how your actions speak and how the work that you do speaks to other people, and less about how fantastic you tell everyone that you are. So humility will take you far. And it doesn't mean that you can't be proud of what you do or that you can't let people know about what it is you're doing, but talking about how amazing you are all the time to other people is going to be a real turnoff. So humility will go a long way. Gratitude is another one. Being grateful. And I was in a workshop last week, and someone was talking about how there's not enough gratitude going on. So if somebody does something nice for you, thank them for it. If someone's doing a really good job, tell them they're doing a really good job. If someone does a favor for you, be grateful. Send a note, real mail or virtual, and thank people for things that they have helped you to do. And I think we don't say thank you enough. So being grateful is part of being professional. Generosity, being generous. If somebody else comes up with a great idea, make sure they're the ones who get the credit for it. Information. Share your information. That's what we do here. We're sharing information and being generous with you, hoping that you will learn something from it and you will take something from it that will help you. It's no use hoarding information, but sharing with other people is a generous thing and part of being professional. And the last one, number 11, is a willingness to learn. So there's always something that we can learn. And I think people who are seen to be professional are always improving on their skills, taking workshops, learning new things, and not being finished with their learning. So being willing to expand and to grow and to learn, because there's always something more to learn. Technology itself is going at this crazy pace. There's always something new to figure out. So those are the 11 things. I'm just quickly going to talk about some of the other topics that are covered in the ebook. The first one is how small things make a huge difference to the way in which you are perceived. So it can be little things like chewing gum. I think I mentioned this in the book. I was in a bank not that long ago and standing in line and noticed the teller, and she was a lovely looking young woman, and she was dressed nicely and she was working away, but she was chomping away on a piece of gum, and it just took away from the whole professional look. It looked terrible, and that her business-like appearance was completely destroyed by just a piece of gum. So little tiny things can make a big impression on people who are trusting you with your expertise. Cell phones. Cell phones are around all the time. Everybody's got one. Apparently, ringtones can be seen as professional or unprofessional. So pay attention to what ringtone that you have And if it's a bizarre ringtone, I have a pretty bizarre one, and you don't want other people to get an impression. When your phone goes off, make sure you've got it on vibrate in your pocket. All sorts of businesses have rules and regulations around having your cell phone at work. If you're using it for business, that's one thing, but if you're not, make sure you've got it turned off or put away somewhere so it's not distracting you from the work that you're being paid to do. So there's a lot about the cell phone in the ebook, but I just thought I'd mention that there are things to think about when it comes to the device that you're packing around with you. Just looking to see what else I've got. Oh, the things that you have on your desk and how they are kept are a form of communication. So what is sitting on your desk? What little knickknacks do you have on your desk at work? Because each of those things will speak to people who come to see you. So if you've got garbage from yesterday's lunch sitting there, they might think you're a bit disorganized and messy. If you have piles and piles and piles of records, they might think that you have trouble with time management or you've got more work than you can handle. It might not be true at all. It's just the perception that people might get from the things that are piled all over your desk. So take a look around at your desk or your workspace and what's there? And what do you think a stranger walking in might get as a communication from the stuff that's all over your desk? So those are some of the things. There are other actions that speak louder than words, and taking your breaks. Work breaks are usually pretty specified. You know, if you're doing an 8-hour shift, you probably have 30 minutes, either 15 minutes in the morning and the afternoon, or a 30-minute morning break, and then maybe a 45-minute lunch or whatever. Every workplace will be slightly different, but there will be some kind of outline. And if you consistently take longer breaks than you are supposed to, somebody is going to notice that. And that might come back to bite you. Not taking a break is also not a great idea. You might think you're being really productive, but not taking a break can be seen in a number of ways as well. It can be seen as though you can't get the work done that you have to do in a day, so you're either inefficient or you don't manage your time well, so you need to work through your breaks. And that might not be true at all, but some people might think that if you don't take a break ever. Maybe they think you're bucking for a promotion and you're trying to impress your boss and trying to do more work than your colleagues by working through your breaks while they take theirs. It might say that you don't have a life and you're busy working all the time. There's all sorts of things that it can communicate. So how you use your time while you're on the work site is an important communication as well. And again, perception is 90% reality. So whatever people might perceive may absolutely not be true, but it's their story. So there are all sorts of other reasons why you should take breaks, including things like labor law, union regulations if you're in a union environment. Somebody way back when, somewhere, probably negotiated long and hard for you to be able to take a break at all. So that's something to think about. Studies have also shown people to be much more productive if they take breaks between work sessions. I think I read somewhere that 40-minute stints of solid work, broken up by a couple of minutes of getting up and walking around or going to the water cooler or something, are important for being able to concentrate better. But studies have shown that people are more productive if they actually take their breaks. And sometimes you just need to get out of the work environment, go outside for a few minutes, or go to the lunchroom, or go somewhere else. And you will come back with a better perspective, a new perspective on whatever problem or task you've been working on. So taking breaks is an important part of being seen to be professional. There are all sorts of other things I could say on that topic, but I don't want to take too much time here today. I want to touch briefly on what you wear, communication via clothing. And there's so much that could be said about this. I've got an article about that as well on the website. But what you wear definitely is a form of communication. And we got, here in Vancouver not too long ago, we got labeled as one of the worst dressed cities in the world because there are a lot of people walking around in workout gear. A lot of people wearing fleece and yoga pants and things, and definitely not very upscale or professional looking. So what you wear does say something, and you've probably heard a lot about that with regards to interview appointments, but not just interviews. Every day, what you wear can send a message to people. It can send the message that you don't care. You throw stuff on, you go to work in the morning, that you're not feeling well. There's all sorts of communications that come across. I've walked into hospital units where the person that was working behind the desk looked like she hadn't gone to bed the night before. Her hair was a disaster. She had jeans on and a ratty old sweatshirt and completely not looking professional. And you kind of wonder what the patients think. Would I be very confident about somebody in the medical field who looked like that? I don't know. If they don't care about the way they look, are they going to care about the work that they're doing? Maybe yes, but it doesn't give a very good impression. So what you wear is important. And again, there are all sorts of things we could talk about around that. I do encourage you to go to communicationdiva.com and check out an article that is called Dress Code. You can find it in the posts, and you can also find it in the tag cloud. And I talk quite extensively about how what you wear is a type of communication. Tone of voice is another thing. How is your tone of voice? I was somewhere recently and we were talking about the voice that people put on, the voice that people tend to put on when they are being professional, when they're at work. One of my students worked at a hotel, and she had a hotel voice, and she would answer the phone and have this very nice voice, good morning, Fairmont Hotel. And she never talked like that in class. She sounded completely different when she put on her hotel voice in class, and everyone started laughing. She sounded upbeat. She sounded like she had a positive attitude. She was very slick, very friendly, and it really didn't sound anything like her in the classroom. But it was her professional voice, and she was careful not to use slang. She was careful to say thank you instead of thanks, and yes instead of yeah, and all sorts of things. And she sounded wonderful when she was putting on her hotel voice. So think about what your voice sounds like, and particularly when it comes to answering the telephone and speaking with people, especially if you're doing something like reception, or you are the voice, the first voice that people hear when they call into your company. The way that you sound can make a difference to whether or not the person comes back or takes, uses your services or buys something from your company. It's very, very important. So tone of voice, something to think about. And your tone of voice is the representation of not just your company, but also of you, and how professional you are, or you are perceived to be. So that is something. Slang words, casual greetings, all of those things can be a challenge. I've also heard that if you smile before you pick up the phone, and this sounds crazy, but if you smile before you pick up the phone, that smile will translate into your tone of voice, and you'll sound friendlier on the phone, and you might even feel a little bit friendlier. So I don't know, try that. You can do these little experiments. Nobody will ever know. Smile the next time you go to pick up the phone and see if you feel better or sound better. Another thing to try is to learn from good examples. So listen to people around you, especially in business settings where there's been some communication training with regard to voice, and pay attention to people who are working on the telephone and sound very professional, and you might pick something up from that. I was in a real estate office a few years back, and it was a very busy telephone. That phone was ringing constantly, and the woman that was answering the phone sounded very professional, and she must have answered the phone about 5 or 6 times in a row, and every single time she sounded positive and upbeat and very professional, and it was the same thing she was saying over and over and over again. Finally, she hung up. There was a lull in the ringing of the phone, and I said to her, "Wow," I said, "You're really good at what you do," because she just sounded so competent and professional, and she got a big smile on her face and thanked me. But it was really good to hear her doing that over and over again. I just thought it was interesting. So tone of voice. I think I mentioned accountability already. Assertiveness was one of the other things that I wanted to talk about briefly here, and working on assertiveness. And that includes asking for what you need. So if you need some time off, if you need some help with the work that you're trying to do, asking for what you need is part of being professional. Again, this topic could take up a whole book on its own, but people who are able to set clear boundaries for themselves earn more respect than those who allow other people to run right over them. You know, nobody respects somebody who is easily pushed over, and people who allow themselves to be run right over by others, coworker, client, employer, don't appear to be professional. It's really hard sometimes for people to become assertive, especially if you're used to defaulting to a passive stance. So there are all sorts of tools out there. There are all sorts of courses you can take. There are books that you can read on becoming more assertive. And I think practice is a big part of it. There are ways to practice in your workplace, and there are ways to be more assertive and practice by even, standing up to a telephone solicitor or something, being firm and clear with somebody in the store, a salesperson. If you can test your assertive skills out on strangers and start that way, then you can maybe work on friends or family members and see what happens. They're called skills. Assertive skills are called skills because they take time and practice. But becoming more assertive, if that's something that you feel you need to do, is a really important attribute of being professional, and there are many resources out there for that. So I feel like I've talked quite a bit here about becoming more professional in the workplace. Again, there's a lot more that is available in the little ebook that I've got published now. So if you go to www.communicationdiva.com to the tab at the top that says My Books, and you will find the links there to the Kindle version and the Smashwords version, which will allow you to download this book for $1.99 on either site. And I would really appreciate it if you do purchase the book, if you would leave me a comment on the website to let me know what you thought about it. And if you have any more tips or any more ideas, eventually I'll be doing a second edition, and there might be some really good ideas that you have that I could incorporate. So I welcome any comments, any thoughts, any ideas on improving workplace professionalism. I hope that some of what I've been talking about here today has been helpful to you. And thank you once again for taking the time out of your busy lives to listen. I hope that you will come back again for next week's topic. I don't know what that will be yet, but I have a whole week to think about it. So, this is Jenn Swanson, thanking you very much for coming over here to communicationdiva.com, and until next time, take care.